Getting into markets, industries, and sectors, all three of these can be a reference to both global and local concepts, but for the purposes of this training, we'll define them from the perspective of the stock. Depending on the subject matter, that may give way to different definitions for a market, and how we define a market is in reference to an economy or a group of economies, such as the United States, Europe, or things like the Eurozone or the BRICS nations. Getting into sectors and industries, we'll go through some examples in a moment, but with sector, it's really the area of the economy that a company is participating in based on their product or service offering. And some examples of sectors are consumer durables, energy, finance, and technology, and we'll get more into those in just a moment. For industry, it's really where companies are competing together with similar or related products, such as advertising, hotels, or even things like semiconductors. Industries are a little bit more about the product and who you compete with versus the sector, which is broader and more so a reference to the area of the economy that your corporation is participating in. Expanding on markets, this is just a reference to an economy or a group of economies. So in this picture, these markets are at a national level. Markets can also refer to the economy within the borders of a particular nation, or even something as small as a weekend farmer's market. More broadly, it can be defined beyond borders based on things like population density or shared cultural or religious beliefs. The reality is that the majority of the population lives in China, India, and across Africa. So when you see a map like this, it helps provide you with some perspective. Obviously, the population of Europe is quite large as well, and then you can see in the Americas how it's actually concentrated in only a few areas. You can also look at this through different trade zones, and in today's world, there are a lot of different trade agreements between nations trying to provide advantages for one another. These things are more dynamic than you might think, and NAFTA is on this chart, but that's already been replaced with the USMCA. And another thing to consider is that in addition to the USMCA and Eurozone are the BRICS nations, which were formed about a decade ago, which if you don't know, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And the reason that I bring this up is to point out that Brazil and Mexico are working on a free trade agreement currently, and if they're able to pull that off, in my view, you'll see the vast majority of global manufacturing move to those two nations over the course of the next 20 years, since they'll be at the center of those two major trading blocks. It's also worth noting that markets can be a reference to the marketplace where you're actually buying and selling stock, like the New York Stock Exchange. And I bring that up as another example just to show you that the term market can have a very broad definition, and it's really something that, depending on the person you're talking to, they could define it a number of different ways. But again, for our purposes here, the term market is just referring to an economy or a group of economies. Getting into industries, an industry is based on a group of companies that are competing together with similar or related products. These definitions can also get tricky. For example, I used to work in the travel industry, or at least that's what everybody called it. In reality, the travel industry comprises a variety of different industries. There's airlines, hotels, restaurants, and even advertising. And whether people realize it or not, the first credit cards came about due to travel. They were called traveler's cards, and it was just done as a way to help expedite transactions and not worry as much about certain exchange rates as you travel between countries. Then from there, you could also include services like EDP services or electronic digital payment services, and you can even get into traveler's insurance now. And if you look at our list of industries here, you'll find that the travel industry actually comprises a variety of different complementary industries, and none of them are actually called travel. We've segmented our reporting this way so you can break apart the different areas of the market and find what you're looking for. Say what you want to invest in is maybe gas and oil production, while what you might find is another similar area of the economy like oil field services might pique your interest. Or maybe you're more interested in biotech or pharmaceuticals, or perhaps you even want to invest in commercial banks or finance companies. The point here is just that there's a lot that's available to you, and to keep that in mind as you search through the stocks, trying to find the right ones for you. One thing that I'll tell you at this point is just to keep in mind that when you're searching through the investments that are out there, you might have a particular company in mind, and depending on your strategy, maybe they don't have the best grades. So while you might think that you've always wanted to invest in that company, what you can start to do is look at the industry and the sector that they compete in and look to see if there are other similar companies out there that may be better investments. Now, there are a number of times that I've thought I wanted to invest in a particular company only to start to look at it and find out that there are better options out there in the same or similar industries. Now, if you want to be invested in a certain company, I don't want to discourage you from doing that. I'm just saying, if you're looking through all the information out there and you find better options, it's up to you which path you decide to go down. We just encourage you to use the industry and sector segmentation as another tool to help you search through the data and find what you're looking for. Now, that leads us into sectors, and a sector is the area of an economy that a company participates in based upon its product offering. So this is a little bit more of a broad brush and can refer to what a company does to interact with the market and generate their revenue. On the screen here, there are some examples of sectors. The company might provide basic materials or can be in basic industries like manufacturing. Or maybe they're a finance company or an investment house. So you can see here it's a little bit more of a broad stroke or bigger category that groups similar types of companies together.